Bar chords. They're a source of strife for many beginner players, and really even some intermediate players. And there are two main complaints that are really out there when people start playing bar chords. It's either, I can't seem to hold down all the notes, I get a lot of buzz, or my hand hurts after playing only a few chords. And usually people experience both of these things. So we're going to address both of those problems in this short lesson. Before we move on to bar chords and actually playing, I will say this. A lot of the time, especially if you're a beginner and you're playing maybe a guitar that you haven't had worked on, you don't really know much about it, sometimes these guitars are just not set up that well. And so you end up with this guitar that even a very advanced guitar player couldn't play a bar chord very well on. Go to a local guitar store, take your guitar in there, and make sure that it's set up properly. That's going to give you a huge leg up when you go to actually practicing bar chords. And really be open to the possibility that if you can't get this guitar in shape to practice, especially as a beginning guitar player, consider buying a new guitar. Consider buying a cheaper guitar that is at least able to be set up correctly. The easiest way to get started with bar chords is to separate the two elements that happen with a bar chord. And we're going to be looking specifically at the E shape today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play an E chord, but I'm going to play it with my first finger free. A lot of people learn the E chord like this, which is fine, and it's good to learn it that way. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to be doing pointer finger free E chord. All right? Also, you want to make sure that you're not playing with your thumb over the neck. That's okay in certain situations, but in this case, we're going to put the thumb down here behind the neck. And as a rule of thumb, you want to make sure that this joint of your thumb is on the hump of the neck, the highest portion of the hump of the neck. Some of you might have a line going down on the middle of your neck. That's a good guide. Okay, that keeps your thumb down and behind the chord. This is going to be important when we move it around and add the bar later. It also keeps your fingers arched enough here so that all the notes are ringing through. If you're learning bar chords, most of you probably know how to play the E already, but again, I want to make sure that our hand position is set up so that we can do bar chords the best way possible. Also, as far as thumb placement up and down the neck, you want to make sure that it's between your first and second fingers. And in this case, since we're playing it open, it'll be between the nut and your second finger. You don't want it too far this way, you don't want it too far this way. You want it to be supported, well supported, right behind the chord. What we're going to do is we're just going to move this chord up and down. You can go as far as you want, making sure that your thumb stays in position and that all your notes are ringing through. This is the easier one, but it just gets you used to moving that E chord around. You're not really interested in making music again, you're just interested in having the strings ring out. Now notice also when I'm doing this, that this finger is very free. You know, I'm not doing this, I'm not real tense, I'm just nice and loose. Okay, once you're comfortable with that, ditch the E chord and try just using the bar. Now, a lot of people try, the first bar chord they ever try is at the first fret. That's probably the worst place to try it because it's the hardest one to play. You have the nut right there. So I recommend starting at the 5th fret, right in the middle of the neck, a little easier to play. So with your thumb position that we talked about before, being between your first and your second finger, press the bar down. Now also notice I've got a little bit of my finger over the neck. Some people try to do this as opposed to this. There's really a problem with that. This works okay, but by having your finger up a little bit more, you're able to take better advantage of this muscle and of your forearm muscles by having your finger up just a little bit. It also helps you get your thumb down a little bit and creates a better finger position for the rest of your fingers. All right? So keep your finger up a little bit when in doubt. Don't assume that you can just have it all the way down here like this. The other problem that happens with this is that this joint on your bar finger ends up flexing there, which is awkward and weird. So make sure that this joint of your finger is firmly on the neck. All right? Also, a lot of people try to play with the bar flat, with their first finger flat. Well, a lot of people also have large knuckles. Your finger, if you feel along this side of your finger versus you feel here, this is flatter. This actually makes a better bar, the side of your first finger. So you don't want to be, cocked real weird like this, but instead of trying to be completely flat, tilt it over to the side just a little bit. So you're resting on the side. That's really going to help both utilize your muscles and help you get all the strings sounding. Okay? Once you've got this position down, move it around, just the way you did. If you're playing an acoustic or you're just starting, move it up first before moving down from the 5th fret. You'll notice as you get further and further up, it begins to be harder and harder to get all the strings. That's not that big of a deal. You may have to adjust a little bit, With practice, you'll start learning how to gradually and subtly modify your finger position in order to fret chords higher up on the neck. But I would say for beginners, you really don't need to know how to play bar chords all the way up here. You can probably stop at the 10th fret or so. The next step, and really final step, is putting those two things together. So we've already taken our E chord and moved it around. We've taken our bar chord and moved it around. Again, notice my thumb position is between my first and second fingers. Next, we're going to put those together, and we're going to do it on the 5th fret. A lot of people try to fret the bar and then fret the E chord. I think that's much harder. Remember how we worked on the E chord, where we had everything was real loose, we had everything in position, and then this bar was just floating? Have that E chord, E shape chord there, and then put the bar on. You shouldn't have to adjust really anything. So that's the next thing you want to do. Notice I'm taking the bar off every time. I'm practicing planting that bar. I'm programming that into my fingers and into my mind. Now, after a while, you won't have to create the chord as two separate actions. But it's a good idea to be able to do that when you first start, because it gives you littler chunks of things to do. And then after some work, you can probably play that dreaded E-shape F chord. There's more information on playing bar chords and thousands of other chords at JamPlay.com. We hope to see you there.